Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there friends, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. And this week, we're going to begin a series of lessons in two Psalms. It's going to take us 4 weeks. So Psalm 9 and Psalm 10 are going to both be two-parters. These Psalms go together, and they teach us something very important. Well, actually, they teach a lot of important things, but one of the things that we glean from, especially Psalm 10, is the definition of the wicked man. Now, we begin with Psalm 9, and this week we're going to do part 1, which will take us down through verse 10. And this is our first acrostic psalm. So the acrostic psalms take the Hebrew alphabet, and then they'll begin each line of a verse with a word that begins with that letter of the alphabet. So they'll start at the beginning with their A and work all the way through to their Z, which is their letter for A is Aleph, and then the last letter in their alphabet is Tav. So that's how they'll do it, and they'll have 22 different lines or sections dedicated to the alphabet. Now, how this works out in Psalm 119, because that's an acrostic psalm, is that you have 8 verses each for each letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Now, in this particular psalm, what we have is a broken acrostic because there are 5 letters missing. So we only have 17 of the 22 Hebrew letters here represented in this particular psalm. We have an introduction in this psalm which begs some discussion. This is called "Of the Choirmaster upon Muthalabin, a Psalm of David." Now, there's a lot of ink that's been spilled over the idea of Muthalabin, what that is. Is this an instrument? Is this a tune name? Or are we to try to translate this? And if we do try to translate this, we would come off with something like "upon the death of a son," which makes a lot of sense since this is attributed to David. So again, Absalom's story comes in here. The death of a son, this could represent or, be about the death of Absalom when he was killed by David's armies at the rebellion. So if that's the case, then David wrote this after that. So he's writing about the death of his son. Or it just simply could be a tune name. Muthalabin was something that was a dirge-type song that was written, and that music was used, and so that's what is being used here. The choirmaster is setting this to that tune name. I prefer the idea that David wrote this upon the death of his son, upon Absalom's death, and so I think it gives a lot of light to what he says here beginning in Psalm 9. So let me read for you today just the first 2 verses. "I will give thanks to the Lord with all my heart. I will recount all your marvelous works. I will sing and exult in you. I will remember your name, O Most High." Now, that seems like a strange introduction, doesn't it, upon the death of a son? But David is casting his experience in the light of the presence of God in his life. So God is Most High. Sometimes in grief, we can't see past the doorway, and we need a bigger perspective. And David gives us that here in verses 1 and 2. "I will give thanks, I will recount, I will sing and exult and remember." So in the midst of the grief, David gives us a grand exercise to help us with the grief. That is to take our eyes off of the grief and off of ourselves for a moment and to exult and to sing and to praise and to give thanks. And when we do, we're releasing all that pressure that the grief has mounted upon us. And so when he says this, "I will give thanks to the Lord with all my heart," it's not because his son is dead. No, it's because God's in control. And he knows that in the hands of the Lord, Absalom now is safe. Well, I hope that you will join me again tomorrow. We'll look at verses 3 and 4 here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.